The rats and the dwarfs have more in common than one might realize. They both live underground, they both like their food, and they're both short in stature.
Short?
So let's see how similar we can really make them in campaign, in battle, by trying to play the Skaven like they are dwarfs. To do this, I'm going to play as the dwarfiest of Skaven lords, good old Queek Headtaker. He's nice and heavily armoured, but so are some of his starting units, which we're going to need in Storm Vermin, some with sword and shield, some with halberds, and also a Plague Claw catapult I'm going to allow myself to use because the dwarves have artillery. They don't have clan rat type units though, so we're going to get rid of all that. Going into our first battle, I'm going to auto-resolve this, get it over nice and quick, and then push on to the first settlement, but I can't get an auto-resolve here, so I've got to fight it. And while I was outnumbered, I did have my sturdy Storm Vermin boys, and I allowed myself to use the menace below, because, well, we are still Skaven under here. My Plague Claw did a lot of the work in this one, blasting things to bits, and then they started to group up, and we could blast them to bits even more in a group, so a reasonably comfortable victory. However, this happened during the turn, which meant when the turn ended, there was a new army stood nearby, which gave them some reinforcements for when I actually tried to take the settlement on the next turn, so I had to fight a goddamn battle again. I was able to win again, but I'm getting gradually more and more beaten down by these battles, my small army. And even though I'd finally taken the settlement and I started to replenish, I then got besieged by another goddamn orc army. So I had to fight that as well. This time I made kind of a choke point and bombed the crap out of them. Again, I managed to get the victory and somehow didn't lose any of my important starting units in the process. Now over this time, I've been building up one of my settlements to tier 3 so I can get the tier 3 building for Storm Vermin. But alas, there's a big old Red Fang Greenskins army that's probably on its way down to me shortly, and I don't have anything I can recruit to protect myself. So I get the only thing I can, which is another Lord. And I think that may have just been enough to push me into a Pyrrhic victory here against this large army. I'm not sure I would have been able to win if I fought this, so very, very lucky. However, if I do auto-resolve, I am going to lose one of my Storm Vermin units. But I figure I've nearly got my building there. It's fine. I'll get some more soon. It should all be okay. Turns out it shouldn't all be okay, actually, because Skarbrand just declared war on me. Finally, my buildings to get Storm Vermin were nearly ready, though, and Skarbrand thankfully decided to go after a Red Fang settlement instead of me, so he's a good lad, really. He's doing us a favor there. There's also the Karakazgul Dwarfs around, which I think the Red Fang are at war with, so hopefully they'll all take each other out while I build up my army. On the next turn, that's precisely what I do, start building up my heavy boys. Good old Storm Vermin, generally not regarded as a great unit, but we'll see what they can do here. Now, while I'm building my big army up, I have that other Lord that I recruited, and I kind of used him to scout. Now I'm just trying to run him off as far away so that Skarbrand will maybe chase him, and that'll draw him away and buy us some time before he might come after us. Although on the next turn he magically disappears and I can't seem to find him anywhere, but the settlement that he attacked is now raised up and free for me to take, so I've recruited another Lord to go over and try to take that, just in case Skarbrand might be putting an ambush down somewhere. I didn't want to send my full army over, just in case. Trying to be cautious, doesn't seem to be around, so we should have a free settlement there. Over the turn, the Red Fang ask for peace, but it's only because they're about to be utterly destroyed by Karakazgul, so thankfully that's that faction dealt with. I said no to their peace treaty anyway, because I knew that if I did, it would piss off Karakazgul, who are probably going to war with me at some point anyway, but if I take that peace, that'll be a treaty with one of their enemies, they won't like me for it, and thus they'll go to war with me sooner. So I need some time. I just need to get a few more units to complete my dwarfy army, and I'll be laughing. I'm now getting this extra settlement, I'm going to get a full province going, build myself up, and then we're going full dwarf. I did eventually find the Skarbrand army. It was back down in its territory, a bit beaten up for some reason. I guess it's at war with others, but not a problem for us right now at least. Now, while I did have a healthy amount of Storm Vermin in my army, nice sturdy front line, flank protection, everything a good dwarf army needs, and my Plague Claw, I needed more ranged units so that I could take on some actual dwarfs, who were no doubt going to come to war with me soon if I didn't go with them. We're very unfriendly. However, I didn't want to go to war with those dwarfs until I cleared things up with Skarbrand, so I checked on him, and apparently we're able to get peace with him. I guess he's having some trouble. We could even get a non-aggression, even a military access. Maybe that's a little much. We'll just go with the non-aggression and the peace. That saves us having to worry about our south for now, and we can focus north on the dwarfs. Now, while I'm chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, some goddamn crooked moon mutinous bastards come down and threaten my stuff. Because, of course, we start at war with them. Our goal here is to try and get 8 peaks, which is where we are going to be headed. And because I stand next to my settlement, it seems like they changed their plans and they head off east, which means they're probably going to go after another one of my settlements. So I could force march my way into that settlement to stop it, but it feels like then they just run back the other way and I'll be here forever. So I just directly chase after them and try to draw them into an open field battle. And do they buy it? No, they don't. They attack my goddamn settlement, but whatever, it's not a huge deal. We're right behind them. We should be able to catch up with them. Luckily, they don't take it. They just sack it. so not a huge deal. I then tried to cut them off. I can at least try to stop them getting to my other settlement, but thank the maker, we're able to get an underway interception on them, which I could get a nice easy auto-resolve win from, but this is personal. They ignored my challenge once, they shall not again. It's an underway battle, this one. I'm going to start marching on them, going to unload the Plague Claw on them. I've now got some Warp Fire throwers as well that I can make use of. Eventually, the green boys start charging towards us. We're, of course, playing the defensive game, because that's what a dwarf does. And because I've got the Warp Fire throwers here, these are, of course, equivalent to Iron Drakes from a dwarf army, right? So they're allowed. I've saved these little gaps. I've got one infantry a little ahead of all the others, so that I've got these gaps for the Warp Fire boys to make use of. Or I've got my Lord and Heroes out front, so things will gather around them, and the Warp Fire boys can melt everything that's attacking them. And all those tactics work out pretty well. Overall, it's nice to be able to do this with Skaven and make good use of Warp Fire throwers, not having to worry about the units that are protecting you breaking and running away so easily, because these are sturdy storm vermin, good old trusted dwarf rats. And all in all, we're able to melt all this stuff away without taking too much damage ourselves. Before I move on to take on those dwarfs though, I recruit a few last units I've been wanting to get, some Rattling Gunners, because I wanted something kind of equivalent to Thunderers, strong armor-piercing missiles. I got a couple of those, as well as another Plague Claw. So we've got a nice dwarf ranged heavy army on the go. And I'm beginning my assault on the dwarfs here of Queek Azgul, decisive victory, easy take on the first settlement. But as I prepare to head west to the next settlement, there's another goddamn Crooked Moon Gitz army. Now, I'm of course worried that they're going to take the settlement that I just took, so instead of trying to go to the next one, I just stand outside this one, try to get an ambush on them, and it fails, of course, but I am able to get a nice, easy, decisive victory if I want it, but I don't want it. I want to test out my new ratty dwarf army with Rattling guns and everything in tow, setting up as I did before with these little kind of pyramids protecting a Warp Fire thrower inside them that could fire to the left or right, and then I'd have my Rattling boys to shoot at all the larger stuff that maybe towers over my infantry. But as they rolled up on us, they had a lot of squigs, a lot of trolls, some infantry as well, but we could slow them down with the Rattlings. We were barraging them with the Plague Claws, and then once they got close, we melted their faces off with the Warp Fire. So it felt very dwarfy, trying to wear stuff down as much as possible before it reaches us, and then just outlasted them when they reached us in melee. Another tidy victory without too much damage to our own boys. I then had to chase that army down to finish it off, but then moved on to take this next dwarf settlement that gave us 2 of the 3 we needed in the province. As I started to move back east to try and get towards the last settlement, I found myself stuck between a little dwarf army and another big goddamn Crooked Moon army. I decided to go after the dwarf army just to quickly get rid of it, and as a hopeful defense from the Crooked Moon army, I recruited a lord and got some regiments of renown just to try and get something to maybe either deter them or to hopefully defend the place. Alas, it didn't work and they came to besiege me, but this besieging gave us time to try and get back there. I wasn't able to win the fight if I did try to fight it, but once I brought Queek back over that side, they changed their mind and legged it out of there, straight back over the river as well, and I figured I got 2 turns if they're going to come back over, so I'll go and try and get that other settlement real quick while they're not around, because otherwise I'm going to be stuck here forever, just getting inundated with armies. So I managed to take that province, but guess what? Another big old dwarf army came back, so I had to rush back over the other side. I still had the small regiment of renown army there to defend, though. They eventually came to besiege us, and I had a little rebellion of some kind, it seems. But once again, once I brought Queek over, the dwarfs decided to leg it away. They were too afraid to try and take it with Queek there as well. Everyone's scared of Queek. I then proceeded to take out the rebels, clear this place up. It was all getting a bit mad and a bit annoying because there was just constant armies attacking me from the north, and I only had 1 army myself. So I decided, heck this, I'm going to get 8 peaks. But there was a goddamn dwarf army nearby, because apparently those dwarfs and Crooked Moon boys are friends and they don't attack each other. But one friend I was starting to build was Tretch, who was attacking a nearby Queek Azgul settlement, Queek Azgul itself. So I decided to head for their other settlement that was in this region first to take care of that. And then I'd go back and try to make a play for 8 peaks. But then, of course, there was another goddamn Crooked Moon army, and I recruited a lord, but I couldn't recruit any more regiments of renown because I disbanded them just now for money's sake. So instead, I made another army at the settlement just over from that to try and make a little army there before hopefully they attack, but no dice, they did attack, and we had to defend with the garrison, which wasn't a terrible garrison by any means, but whether it was going to be enough against all their army of trolls that they seemed to have, well, there was only one way to find out. So I fought this bad boy. They came at me from 2 directions. I was able to hold them at the gate with some halberds, which obviously great for taking down trolls. So I got a lot of damage, and I did manage to hold them. They came from the south gate and from the east gate. I managed to hold them off at the east gate pretty much, but here, the south gate, you can see they've broken through. I did have a bit of a defense plan though. I had some storm vermin that I left back in the center with one powerful tower, so hopefully that can finish off whatever remaining trolls might break through. There's another tower as well. This is the east gate where I'm mostly holding them off. Eventually it came down to those trolls from the south gate running around taking my points off me, and they tried to get this one where they could start getting victory tickets, but I had one unit of storm vermin. That one from the center came over. I was holding them off. I had towers barraging them, and I was able to get rid of most of the trolls, and just when it looked like I was gonna win, a fucking draw! Apparently I'd left a 20-minute timer on my battles on my campaign. I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe I did it in a previous campaign. But either way, it didn't matter too much because it meant that they didn't win, but I didn't lose. But it gave me time to bring over that other little army that I'd made, and it was able to fend off that Crooked Moon army, so I guess it was fine. In the meantime, I'd underweighted Queek over to 8 peaks, ready to get into this battle. There's one stack there. It's got a full garrison. There's another army not far away, but it shouldn't be a problem. We're going in for it. 1 stack versus 2 big old full stacks. And you know what? I know what you're thinking here. If you've seen these before, you're probably thinking, oh, he's just going to choose it and run to the victory objective. Well, you know what? I decided to actually properly fight this one as a proper siege to see if I could do it. And because, you know, it's 8 peaks, right? This is the whole purpose of the campaign. I need to get 8 peaks. Let's do it. I went in, aimed to play the siege properly, how it's supposed to be played. I attacked mostly from one side with most of my army all together, a few other units to come in from different directions, just to draw the enemy units away so they weren't all in one place in front of me. I used my catapults to blast down their towers so that they wouldn't be able to hurt our troops too much. And because we didn't have time to make siege towers, I had to bash my way through the door to go in through there. I also put a hole in their wall so the boys had another way in as well. I didn't want to go over the walls and get everyone worn out. But all my ratty boys started to pour in through these 2 holes I had created, and we would begin our full-on siege of Queek 8 peaks. As I mentioned, I had other units of storm vermin at pretty much all the other doors on the other side of the place. At first, just to draw units away from the main assault, but also so that if those doors happened to be left unattended by anyone, I could just walk in and maybe try to take some capture points. But otherwise, at the main assault, we were getting stuck in. Queek was in there, dropping fools. There was a lot to deal with. There was trolls, there was black orcs, there was plenty of big uns. Luckily for the trolls and stuff and the large stuff, we did have the halberds, so we were able to deal with those, and of course missiles as well. We started to push around this side though, pushing in towards our first capture point, try and get rid of those towers that might be bombarding us. So I wanted to push through this way, and then the plan would be to try and push through the center and get to the victory objective if we couldn't kill off all of the 2 armies. And my dwarf ratto boys fought hard, goddammit. I tried to get them the best matchups possible, tried to make the best use of my missiles where I could. It's kind of awkward in these sieges, especially with warp fire throwers. Managed to pretty quickly get rid of their spider as well. They only had the one, but our halberds took care of it. Eventually, with a lot of flanking, with a lot of blasting with missiles, with Queek doing a lot of work himself, we managed to clear this section of the settlement, ready to try and push on into the center and get after that victory objective. While this was going on, the units that I'd snuck in through the back doors were able to get into some capture points and take those and thus destroy some towers, so saving us a bit of damage. As I moved through, there was a couple of nice ramps, some higher ground that I could use for my ranged units, get some nice damage done with those. And then began the real push to the center to try and control this area here, take this capture point maybe, and push on to take the final victory objective and get that W. My ratty boys started to pour down the hill to get into it. Queek, I started to try to get towards the victory objective, so I tried to sneak in past just to get there by himself and he could get to work on that. Got some more nice angles with my warp fire throwers, did a lot of damage here, getting into the backs of this unit that was fighting my sneaky backdoor unit. With this, we were able to take control of that center point and start taking that one victory objective. We were taking the second one. We pretty much got this done. We did it. We fought an actual It's that fucking timer again, you motherfucking bastard!
God,
I'm gonna kill you, I swear to
goodness
God! So apparently, I forgot the goddamn timer was a thing again, and I got a draw. After all my hard work, the one time I try to actually play a siege, and I get screwed over on it. God damn it. I tried to attack again to see if I can get this, and apparently I can't get an auto-resolve close victory, and I would have taken that, but apparently I'm not allowed to do it for some reason. I don't know why. Queek is a siege attacker. I can't do it. So at this point, I think, okay, let's do what any honorable Total War player would do. Let's reload and cheese the bastard. So I did it again and just ran my hero that's on Bonebreaker straight to the victory objective, just took that point and won that way. Whatever. Shut up. I don't care. I'm a Skaven. I'm allowed to do dirty tricks. You saw me fight it, all right? I've earned this. I did try to let my army get a little bit beaten up in the process, so it would be kind of how it would have been after I fought it that first time. For some stupid reason, I didn't upgrade the settlement there. I don't know why. I should have put it to level 2 or 3, but whatever. We got it. We got 8 peaks. We got all its tasty bonuses. Nice. From here, I went on to take Valea's Sorrow to finally get rid of these goddamn Crooked Moon mutinous gits, and that was one big enemy off the table. At this point, I started to have some good money coming in. I had some money in the bank. I started to make a bit of a second army. Maybe not quite a full one, maybe half a stack. but it would help out. From here, I wanted to finish off Karaka's Ghoul. They had a big stack of Black Crag. I wanted Black Crag as well, because gold mine, so I made my way towards that. As I was getting on with this, guess which race decided to bother me in my campaigns again? Oh, it's some pissing elves again. At least they weren't trying to make friends with me this time, and I was able to have an excuse to go and batter them, which is what I decided to do right after I took Black Crag, which I wasn't able to auto-resolve, and Lord knows I don't want to fight another siege right now. So I besieged it, hoping I could wear them down, and luckily they did stay in there. I wore them down for a turn and was able to get a Pyrrhic victory. I'll take it. At this point, I started to make my move towards those damn dirty elves, found some more Karaka's Ghoul on the way. I figured they were pretty much done. I eventually got both of my armies over towards Imric's lands. I did a bit of scouting before I charged in to see if he had any armies around. Nothing in sight, so I made my move, took 2 settlements in one turn, the Bone Gulch and Ash Ridge Mountains. I was hitting them hard and fast, trying to take as much land as I could, making Imric rue the day that he declared war on old Queeky boy, and eventually he showed his ugly elven mug, staring at Queek's army from across the lands. I was ready to take him on, one-on-one. I wouldn't even use my second army, but he magically disappeared. Where did he go? Well, I thought maybe he was ambushing, but I ain't scared of no elf ambush, so I went looking for him and found him, had an opportunity to intercept. He wasn't able to ambush us. I could auto-resolve for a close victory, but why would I do that when I get the chance to murder elves? Stupid. Let's go. For this, I went full-on dwarf and went with a dwarf box. That's right, I used all my ranged power, sat in my little box and hoped for the best. I had my warp fire throwers set up as before, trying to shoot through the caps, had my rattlings around, my 2 plague claws, blasting their infantry, although it occurred to me as they approached that they have a lot of flying units, and a box can't really stop flying units very well. But in they came, mostly attacking the edge of my box, thankfully, getting after the melee infantry instead of the missile infantry, which I so vitally needed. I tried to gun down the dragons and eagles as quickly as I could, although we did have the issue, the warp fire throwers and dragons, the fire resistances and things. It made it not so great for my warp fire throwers. And honestly, this box didn't really work so well. I think it might have been all the dragons. They're generally quite hard to deal with, and apparently they're pretty good at unboxing. My box slowly getting dismantled as the battle wore on. But so did the elf army. We were able to start gunning down the dragons, routing them off, killing some, killing the eagles and getting rid of them. The infantry took its time getting there. I was using the menace below to stop their artillery and their missiles as much as I could. I started to focus down Imric because he was going to be tough to get rid of. But overall, in the end, it kind of worked. The box kind of lost its shape and became a bit kind of misshapen like a wet cardboard box, but we held it together. The missile units were able to do their work, the warp fire throwers, the rattlings. Queek was doing his part, taking out the heroes where he could, getting rid of those eagles. Look at him go. He just doesn't give up, that lad. Look at his funny run. Bless his cotton socks. Eventually, it all came down to taking out Imric. He was the last piece of the puzzle for us to take care of. We had some rattlings, we gunned him down, and eventually we were able to break him, giving us that victory. And with that, elf was back on the menu, boys. We took care of some elves. It felt good. Of course, I made sure to follow it up and make sure he was proper dead, so Imric was out of the game for a while. From here, I proceeded to ruin the rest of his kingdom, taking what other settlements he had in this area. He only had seemingly a few settlements left till we finish him off. It looked like Tretch was going to take out his settlement to the north, so we were well on our way to making elf extinction a reality in this area. Lovely. A little more east, we found their settlement of Ruins End, which was coincidentally what was about to happen to the elves. And it also revealed that they had Pig's Barter, which is a settlement I couldn't see, which seemed to be their last final settlement. So, of course, I set my sights on that. But oh scheisse, things got spicy as the Chaos Dwarfs came after me, Drazoth specifically. This could be a problem. And then, as everyone seemed to think it was fun to declare war on me, Kugath came along and said, "Hey, you want a non-aggression?" What a great guy. Good old happy friendly Nurgle. Now at this point, I mustered myself to go and take out Imric for a final battle, but I gave him a chance. I let him build up a bit of an army. I sat outside for a few turns, but while I was doing this, guess who's back? It's Karak Azgul attacking one of my settlements back over where I started. I thought they were dead, to be honest. I thought somebody had killed them off. I completely forgot about them. Turns out they still had a little place in the desert, the sons of bitches. Fair play, Karak Azgul, you got me. Luckily, they only sacked the place, though, and didn't take it, which gave me time to build a little Regiment of Renown army there and save the place. Eventually, I went in for it, tried to get rid of Imric once and for all. I wanted this to be the final battle of the campaign of the video. I could have got a close victory auto-resolve here, but it was a siege, and I didn't want to fight a siege as my last battle, because, you know, I've not had much luck with sieges this game. So I tried to draw him out into a field battle, but I just couldn't seem to get him to bite. Skarbrand, though, was beating up the Karak Azgul dwarfs that had attacked my settlement, so that was nice of him to finish them off for me, and I actually became kind of friendly with Skarbrand, believe it or not. The Chaos Gods are really nice in this campaign. But guess who came to get me around this time? It's those damn dirty Chaos Dwarfs. With a big, dangerous full stack, they took Ruin's End off me, and I decided, okay, they're my final battle. So I came in, took the auto-resolve, got rid of Imric, goodbye elves, and everyone in the land rejoiced. But now for the real challenge, the Chaos Dwarfs. Still probably a bit of an overpowered faction. I was going to need both of my armies for this. Now, while it was a bit of a faff to set up because of the river and reinforcing and stuff, I eventually got to the point where I got an ambush on this army, but that felt too easy. I didn't want no stinking ambush. I wanted to fight this army dwarf on dwarf, so we could find out who the real dwarf faction is. So, here we go. My boys were ready. They were eager to show that they were the best kind of dwarf in the land. The Rat Dwarf. But in fairness to the Chaos Dwarves, they did look pretty scary coming down the hill with all their fiery fireness. It was no doubt going to be a tough fight, especially with all the strong units they had, and especially as I had to wait for my reinforcing army, which took about a minute and a half or so to get there, so it was pretty much one single army versus a full army for a while, and I knew this army was probably going to get destroyed. It was mostly going to be about how much damage can we do. We need to do enough so that the second army can come in and finish what's left of the Chaos Dwarfs, because my two armies are actually very similar. It's pretty much the same thing. But again, we had the problem that the warp fire throwers were trying to shoot a lot of stuff that had a fire resistance, so we were a little bit ineffective. There was a lot of these boys, the good old fireborn, but we had the halberds to try and deal with them, the rattling guns as well. Their flyers were a bit of a problem, some Bale Taurus, some Lamassu. I tried to get rid of those as quickly as I could, but then I realized I needed to get to work on Drazoth because he's at full health still. We need to start wearing him down, otherwise if he's at full health by the end of the battle, we're going to be screwed, basically. So I had to get to work on him. It was tough. We were getting overrun. Queek was in this army as well, so he was probably going to get taken out by all the stuff before this second army arrived. I tried to set up my second army in a decent formation ready for the attack, but they started to send over stuff just one at a time, a couple of units here and there, so we could take those out as they came. But my main army, my first army, was getting absolutely battered and destroyed. Queek was in there. He had Bale Taurus on top of him. He had Drazoth on top of him. It was looking pretty bleak for Queek. But he fought hard. He made sure he was doing his part. He was getting knocked down, though. These things just too big for him. The struggles of a footlord. And eventually, poor old Queeky did break and run for the hills, but we still had our second army to try and finish the job here. But Drazoth and his fiery boys weren't dead yet. They were still coming. There was still quite a lot of stuff left, even though it was spread out all over the battlefield, not all in one place on top of us. But the units were damn difficult to get rid of. Here's a lone centaur coming in, fighting down to their last man, apparently. But all this stuff was still left. Fireborn, there was more centaurs, there was some Chaos Warrior great weapons, there was fire glaives. How the hell were we going to stop all this? Our rat boys were dying left and right. We were running out of ammo. We were running out of morale. They were wearing us down with their goddamn toughness. But it wasn't over yet. Queek was back, baby. You really thought he'd abandon his boys? He came charging back in, straight into the thick of it, trying to slay the Lamassu. He was chopping dwarfs down left, right and centre, and he had no problem charging in, leading from the front, head first, quite literally, fearlessly taking down the final enemies of this army and claiming victory for himself and his dwarf rats this day, proving that the best kind of dwarf is a rat one. So we managed to get it done in this incredibly Pyrrhic victory, proving that rats are indeed the best kind of dwarf. We took a lot of territory in this run. We got a lot of money in the bank. So next time you think about knocking storm vermin, you remember the right setup. You play them like dwarfs. They're not too shabby. Of course, I've taken all the skill points and stuff to buff them up to make them good here, and it's worked out pretty damn well. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Thanks to all the patrons who support this channel. And hey, did you know that shields are actually pretty damn strong in this game? Check it out. I'll see you in the future.